about this. She's a political strategist and commentator, and she's the founder of Relax Strategies and former senior congressional aide to former Republican Jeff Miller. She's live from Washington, D.C. Rina, thank you so much for being with us. So why did so many women ended up voting for Donald Trump?
Well, I believe that American women are not a monolith in any way. We're very complex as a segment of American society that is greater in share than our male counterparts. Indeed, American women went to the polls this election day with numerous issues top of mind. These are kitchen table issues like economy, immigration, crime, and of course, abortion was on the minds of millions of American women, given the overturn of Roe versus Wade. Now, that was done by Trump's appointed Supreme Court justices. And since that overturn just a couple of years ago, we have seen women galvanized around the issue of abortion. Across the country, coast to coast, when abortion has appeared on the ballot, Republicans have not fared well. So moving into election day for this general election, the sense would have been that Trump would suffer again based on that issue. But what I saw women do was, again, prioritize other kitchen table issues when it came to essentially what they were going to do on election day. And these women included independent and center-right women as well. That was a segment that Harris had hoped she would capture based entirely on the issue of abortion and reproductive rights, care, and access.
And I'll ask you more about the other issues you think motivated them to vote for Trump. But just coming back to what was predicted, I mean, all the polls, including the much-respected Iowa poll, predicted that women would come out in full force for Harris. Where did they go wrong?
Well, it's not entirely wrong that the majority of women, when they answer polls, and look, exit polls, I believe, are still, some of them, polls that we should be wary of. I think there is still a woman out there that is not willing to tell anybody that she cast her vote for Trump. But let's not forget the millions of American women who chose to stay home this year as well. We saw fewer voters this year, and people are pointing to that and saying, look, Trump isn't really that successful. I push back on that and say he has expanded the vote with women, with young people, with minorities. So a lot of our conventional thinking just cannot apply here. We know from 2016 that we ought to be wary of the polls. But what I think happened here was that, again, people know who Donald Trump is, and there's a bit of shame for many independent and right-leaning women to admit publicly that they would vote for Trump for the first time.
Right.
I believe there were a lot of first-time voters for Trump that were women.
Right.
That is just what that number is, we don't fully know yet.
Yeah, it was quite surprising also that Trump did better with young women than he did in 2020. Rina, beyond abortion rights, why did Kamala Harris lose the women's vote? What did she do wrong, and what did Trump do right, do you think?
Suburban college-educated women were really the segment that both parties were focused on. Although in the last weeks of Trump's campaign, it was revealed by advisors that they were not focused on women. They were focused on turning out men. But again, looking at American women coast to coast, in particularly those 7 swing states where Harris and Trump both did focus, the Harris campaign should have been more concerned about cost of living issues as well as crime and immigration. I believe in those 3 areas, they just weren't able to move the needle in time. Let's not forget, Harris had a really tough task on her hands. In this 100-day campaign, not only did she have to reintroduce herself to voters, and many who were not paying attention or just frankly did not know who she was, even though she's a sitting vice president of the United States, but also thirdly, to really change their impression of her as a capable leader in dealing not only with domestic issues, but also with the geopolitical tensions abroad.
Right.
One thing I think that Harris suffered from the most was simply just being Biden's vice president. I think so many women went to the polls this year thinking Harris would be just an extension of the past 4 years of Biden's term.
She couldn't shake that off, right? So let me ask you finally, Rina, we saw women protesting in Washington, D.C. today. Is the right to abortion in danger in the U.S. under Donald Trump?
Well, women have every right to make their voices heard in this free country. You know, the freedom of speech here is paramount, and there have been issues surrounding it. But I hope that women across the country assemble in their communities as well and work to better the laws regarding abortion on the books in their state, because that's what the overturn of Roe versus Wade did, was kick the issue back to the states. And you heard Trump say that over and over in the aftermath, that, hey, the states are deciding now. But one thing he also has come out and said is that he would not enact or sign a national ban on abortion. Now, he has flip-flopped on that issue, but the last words we did hear out of his mouth have been that he should be trusted not to sign that national ban on abortion. It is a thing where each woman is going to have to decide, do they trust President-elect Trump to not do a national ban on abortion? It just depends on who you ask.
Right.
So all American women can do right now is to go work and get their voices heard in their state if they believe that the laws regarding abortion are too restrictive.
Rina, thank you so much for talking to us. Always interesting to hear from you. Rina Shah joining us from Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thank you.